Hello, everybody. Welcome to the information session for the UNCG LIS department for the MLIS degree. Welcome. Glad you could come here today. I'm going to share my screen, and I have about, I'd say, 15 slides to share with you, but please feel free to interrupt me at any time with a question, either in the chat or in by raising your hand or just interrupting me. It doesn't matter. Um, and I'd like to start with this slide because UNCG is a real place. We have a real building, and our offices are on the fourth floor. Some library departments are often confined to the basement, but we actually have very nice offices on the fourth floor, and come and visit us if you're ever in Greensboro. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Nora Bird, and you can refer to me as Nora throughout this presentation. And I am an associate professor in the department, and I've been here for about 15 years. So I'm going to introduce you to how to apply to the degree, etc. I'd like to take a moment, partially so that I can get to know what questions to address, and there are all kinds of different parts of the Master of Library and Information Science. So I'm wondering if you don't mind sharing either in the chat or with your voice what your particular interest in the MLIS program is and where you think you want to end up. Sure, go ahead, Andrew.
Yes, so my name's Andrew. I have a background in education, but I'm interested in archival studies, um, and so I was kind of wondering, well, archives, and I'm also interested in public libraries. But uh, that's where my background, my interest is coming from.
Great.
I can go next. I'm Sarah. I have a business background, but I'm interested in school library. So I've never taught in a classroom or anything before, but I'm hoping to be a school librarian.
Great. I'll try to address, there's some special things you need to know, so I will try to address those.
And hi, my name is Jerry. I recently graduated with my master's degree in English. And I'm kind of interested going towards like a university library potentially.
Great, great, wonderful. All right, well, welcome. And if you don't see the answers to your questions as we're going along, just let me know. So find your way here is the tagline that UNCG uses, and we think it's particularly apropos to the Library and Information Science degree because that is what we help people do. We help people find their way in and out of all of the information that's out there, and we try to create collections of digital and real artifacts so that people can find the answers to their own questions. So why come to the MLIS at UNCG? One of the important questions you have to ask about any program is whether they're accredited by the American Library Association. that is not absolutely required for school libraries, but if you ever wanted to make a change into the public library arena or to work in a community college library, they would require the ALA accreditation. So it's better to get your school library degree here than it is in some programs that don't have that accreditation. We're just a 36 credit hour program, which is lower than some schools, and it's about average across the United States. We have synchronous distance classes, and that marks us as a bit different than some programs that you will see out there. Synchronous means that we meet in a webinar format like this, primarily in the evenings from 5:30 to 8:20 Eastern time. And there are accommodations. We do record all of our classes, but we do value of the interaction that happens in an in-person class. But you can finish our degree without ever coming to campus. We have no residency requirements. UNCG itself, and the department especially, is involved in research that does the that focuses on community engagement, and we're committed to helping guide the future of the field. We have a lot of alums across the United States, and we are very connected with professional associations and we have a lot of faculty members, both adjunct and affiliated, who have especially been prominent in North Carolina organizations like the North Carolina Library Association and the Society of North Carolina Archivists. We pride ourselves on hands-on work. So there are very few tests. We are focused on projects. Some of them are group projects, and some people hate those, but I do always warn my students that the entire field of LIS is done like a group project. So there's a lot of collaboration that has to happen across departments and across individuals in different organizations. And so learning to do that in the academic setting is helpful when you go out into the field. And we require an internship, which I'll talk a little bit more about. Yes, go ahead, Jerry.
Before you leave that previous slide, talking about those 36 hours, since I just got my master's degree, would any of those credits be able to transfer to this program?
Unfortunately not. The problem is that once you get a degree, you finish a degree, those credits have been used, and they went towards that other master's. So sorry about that. So we have 3 programs. We actually have just 2 programs with the MLIS. So one doesn't really have a name, but in when we talk about it, we call it the general program. So what does that mean? Well, Andrew is interested in, well, maybe public libraries, but also maybe archives and special collections. So it's possible to create out of the electives that you get in the program, and there are 7 electives, you can create a focus that's either public library, or for Jerry, it might be the academic library, or it might be archives and special collections. You can't mix it up too much because you want to leave the program with a focus. But that can especially be done through the internships that you do, especially that final one. So that program is flexible, but it's not absolutely flexible. You can't take a total variety of classes and hope to apply it to a future job. And that's what we're most interested in, is getting you to a practical degree that will translate into a job in the field. So our other program, go ahead, Andrew.
Yes, so I was just curious. I had a few questions.
Sure.
So the archive or special collections, if I'm understanding correctly, it's not necessarily a focus.
It can be
And
a focus, yes.
it can be.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
And my other question is, how does the archival program at UNCG, how does it compare with other archival studies programs?
Well, I would say that we are probably not the best program in the country. I think the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee has one of the better online archival programs. And that is because it is a focus and not a concentration. So we don't have required classes in that. So you can choose what you want to. And but we have enough classes, and they are well done enough that some of our graduates, one is the archivist at UNCG who manages a special collection called the Cello Collection. Another is the digital projects librarian at UNCG, and another is the librarian archivist, outreach archivist at UNCG. And we have archival folks all over the country who have graduated from our program. So we are not affiliated with the Society of American Archivists. They do not certify our degree, but we have a strong program that has led to work in the field. Did that answer your question, Andrew?
Yes, Dr. Bird, I think that gave me a pretty good idea. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So for Sarah especially, the MLIS with school licensure is our other program. So this program leads to an actual teaching license in North Carolina. It's called the 076 license. It requires the MLIS in order to receive that degree. But you are also a teacher. And so I think you said, Sarah, that you were a business major and haven't worked in education. So there are, I think it's a total of 3 courses that are like prerequisites. So they count towards your 36 credit hours, but you are probably going to have to take extra credit hours in order to complete the program. So about 42 credit hours. One is a course in general education, methods, etc. The other is a practicum that you have to do in a school. And this, it's number 692. It's called a field experience. It requires you to work in a school for 10 hours, can be a school near you. We arrange that practicum situation. And you have to pass that before you are actually accepted into the SLMC licensure program. Do you have any questions about that, Sarah?
So do I do those 3 classes at the beginning of the program, or do I do those at the end, or?
You do them in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, so then you would be accepted into the SLMC concentration, and you would be following that program of study, which is fairly rigid. There's a lot of requirements in that, I think, and your choice of those other 2 classes that I mentioned uses up all the electives in that
So would
program.
I
So
also end up able to be certified to work in public libraries, or is the program?
yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and that's the beauty of coming to our program versus a program that only gives you the school license. So there are some other licensure only programs. One is for instructional technology licensure, which is very popular in schools right now. So that's another option you might consider, Sarah, if you're interested in that. We also have another whole program, which is an MED in instructional technology. And that has an instructional design certificate for people who are interested in serving in academic libraries. Receiving that instructional design certificate as well, depending on what other background you have, can be very useful because a lot of academic library jobs require you to teach. So yeah, Jerry.
Do I have to be in that MED instructional technology for that certificate?
No, you do that with the MLIS. It's just that some of the electives that you choose, there are 4 courses, would be ones that would also satisfy the certificate at the same time. So you'd get both the MLIS and the certificate.
And those required courses would double dip. I wouldn't have to take extra time.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, so to complete 36 credit hours, practicum or field experience is required. Did you have another question, Jerry? Oh, okay. You do have to take a test, Sarah, it's called the praxis. It's done at the end of the program. It's not anything that we do. It's something that the licensure folks deal with, and it's totally outside the program. You don't have to write a thesis, but we do ask you to put together a capstone portfolio, and that is we have certain things we want you to learn, and you need to demonstrate with the portfolio that you have learned those things in the program. And so you're going to be saving all of your work. You're going to be an archivist for yourselves and saving all of your work as you're going through the program to get ready for that capstone. So how long does it take? There is, so 2.58 years is sort of the average of all these different timing. So some people do complete the program in less than 2 years. I always mention one crazy person who did it in 1 year, 4 courses per semester, 3 semesters. It's difficult to do unless this is the only thing that you're doing at this particular time. Most take 2 years, and the and another big percentage take about 2 to 3 years, and there are some people who take more than 3 years. That's a little bit difficult because LIS is a very technology intensive program. And so the technology that you learned in the beginning of your program might have changed completely by the time you finish your program if it's more than 3 years. So we try to encourage people to take at least one course a semester and get 3 to 4 years. So these are from student exit surveys a couple of years ago, but pretty much that has been maintained throughout. So here's some pictures from our faculty, etc. And we do consider ourselves committed and responsive faculty. You are assigned a faculty advisor who works with you throughout the program. You get advice every semester. I remember I had an advisee tell me once that I was the first academic advisor she'd ever met with. And we try to make sure that that happens because especially in the general program, there's lots of choices, and we want to make sure that you are getting what you need to get to the next level. We try to visit when you do a practicum. It's been kind of low on our agenda since COVID, but we did do that in the past, and it's picking up again. We try to meet at conferences. We represent the department at a lot of local and national conferences, and we try to make sure that alums come by and say hello, etc. And we have a very good collection of materials in the library. We also have a teacher resource center. If you're local, Sarah, you're welcome to come and use that collection. It is a model school library and has a very good young adult and children's book collection that would be found in a school library. And you're also welcome to borrow things if you're distant from campus. We do use snail mail to mail books back and forth. And we have a makerspace in that building that I showed you on the 3rd floor, and that's where the teacher resource center is as well. So classes are online. We do have had in the past some hybrid courses. The room that we use for on-campus courses is small. So since COVID, we have not done that so much, but I'm hoping that will pick up again. And we do have a few courses that are taught asynchronously. So you'd have to have a good laptop, and we recommend a laptop versus trying to come to class on a phone. There's some limitations. You can listen to a class okay on a phone, but doing other kinds of things that might happen during a class session is difficult. Recommend headset and microphone. I especially need one. I have a very soft voice. So without this microphone right at my mouth, it would, a lot of hearing problems happen. And you do need to occasionally buy a book, although we work with the library to have ebooks that are unlimited user, so that those textbooks are available to you at any time. Okay, so you want to know how to apply, right, at this point? So you're applying to our graduate school and then are admitted to the department. So so it's all done through grs.uncg.edu. There's a big apply now button at that address. We are presently looking at applicants for the summer. Summer starts in May in North Carolina. So March 15th is the deadline for summer. And then we have a fall admission that the absolute deadline is May 15th. But if you're looking for financial aid of any kind, or scholarships of any kind, then you need to get your application in by the end of February. So what do we want to see? We want to see a personal statement. We want to see a resume. We want the names and email addresses of 2 references and an official copy of all the transcripts that you have. So Jerry's master's degree, but also his undergrad degree. And if you went to a community college and those credits didn't transfer to your bachelor's degree, then we need those community college transcripts as well. And there's my email address. You can email me if you have questions. So what's this personal statement look like? Well, people always want to know, how long should it be? So 1 paragraph is too short. In fact, I encouraged an applicant recently to give me a longer personal statement because what that paragraph said was not enough for what we needed. Because you need to talk about librarianship, what interests you about it, working with people in the community, whatever community you want to serve, whether it's by working in an archive or working in an academic library or working in a school library. What is your connection to that population and how do you want to serve them? For Sarah, you want to talk about those students, increasing their success, but it can also apply to academic libraries as well. You want to think about who you want to serve and how you want to make that connection with them. So recommendations. So if you've been out of college for a while and you don't have any connections with anybody who was a faculty member of yours, don't worry about that. Job supervisors, we want to know that you're the kind of person who shows up, does what they need to do, and completes work on time. And if you were in a school, Sarah, that would be an administrator in the school that you serve in. I did definitely want to encourage you Sarah, if you're not doing it already, some kind of volunteer work in a school would kind of improve your chances at being accepted into our program. And yeah, current supervisors, short resume, just a page. We want to know what you've been doing in the interim since college. A lot of our applicants are in their late 30s, early 40s. They've been out of school for a while. We want to know what they've been doing. So the other big question, of course, is cost, and costs change. This is a link to the current costs, and you can see the tuition for North Carolina residents is this very top line. If you are outside North Carolina, then and taking the classes online, this would be your line, the second line down. And you can see as the credits go up, this is, per credit hour. All of our courses are 3 credits. So this is a minimum cost for per credit hour. And notice that after 9, if you do have time and focus enough to be able to take 12 credits, it's the same cost as 9 credits. And there are some fees. We have the MLIS somewhere in here has a fee. They call it a tuition differential. And I can't put my, there it is, MS Library and Information Studies. So an extra $20 per credit hour. These are technology costs for us. And notice that I don't know if you noticed, but that was just for spring of 2023. There's probably going to be an increased cost after the after this, actually probably starting in this summer. So we do have assistantships, but I have bad news for the future. Those we used to have quite a lot of assistantships, and we are definitely going to be changing that number. We're going to have fewer in the future because of changes in the way graduate education is treated in the UNC system. But we still do have some, and you have to be a full-time on-campus student to qualify for those. There are other employment opportunities. Some are in the Jackson Library, some are in the Teacher Resource Center that I mentioned before. And we have had TA positions for the BSIS courses. That's in a little bit of a flux right now. We have very limited departmental scholarships that are awarded every year, probably enough to finance one course. And unfortunately, graduate education is primarily financed through loans, as you've probably heard. Andrew?
Yes, what is the BSIS?
Oh, I'm sorry. That is the Bachelor of Science in Information Science. So you would be a teaching assistant for those undergrads. And
Great.
yeah, so
Great.
in our department, yeah. So we have a Library Student Association, which is actually a chapter of the American Library Association. So you join the American Library Association, you're part of a student group that does all of their work online. So you don't have to come to campus, but it's a good organization. There has been in the past some money that can be used to attend conferences and to present at conferences that is funneled through the graduate student association at the university level. And our LISA keeps apprised of what's happening there. And again, those opportunities at state and national conferences. We were just talking about the alternative spring break in the department. We had to put that on hiatus during the COVID semesters, but we're thinking about maybe reviving that. We need to look at that carefully, but we have some very enthusiastic partners out there, and so we would like to bring that back if we can. And we have one study abroad program, and that is to Ireland. This is the library at Trinity College in Dublin, and yes, those are all books and on those shelves, and it is quite a spectacular place to visit. So that's all I have. Are there any more questions?
I have one.
Sure.
You mentioned the capstone stuff. Is there any way that we can see a little bit more information beforehand, since you said we need to kind of think about it throughout?
Oh, sure. Let me just get that. They are changing the way we do web pages, so so I'm never sure I can find anything, but there it is. That's a description of the capstone. There are actually two options. I should have mentioned that earlier. I'm glad you asked. The option one is that you do a field experience. But we do have some folks who are in the program and they already have a job in a library. So we encourage them to do the project option. And the project option is you work with your work supervisors to create something new, something different. So my favorite example of that is a student I'm working with this semester who is totally transforming the social media presence of the library that she works at. There hasn't really been somebody who's like the social media coordinator. And so she's she's instituting a project where she's doing an evaluation of the present things that they do, and creating new options of social media, and then going to look at, well, has there been more engagement at the end of the semester? So a project to look at sort of revamping their whole social media presence. And so those are like two different ways that you can satisfy that you're still working in the field, but you're going to the next level. You know, a lot of jobs in libraries are at the level of sort of a library assistant level, doing a lot of circulation work and keeping track of records and things like that. But this is bringing it to the professional level where you're doing evaluation and assessment and thinking about designing new experiences for people. So, great question. Sure, Andrew, go ahead.
Building off of what you were just saying about the field, how is the job markets for librarians?
Well, it has been picking back up. We just had a survey of our graduates that was done by the Library Journal. They do it every year. It's a good place to look at those statistics. And our statistics came out that 80%, something in the 80% range of our graduates had a job at a professional level after they graduated. So these are graduates who were 1 year out of school. So we're feeling pretty good about that. But there aren't huge numbers of postings. It really depends on the part of the field that you're going into, you know, whether there's jobs or not. And you may have to start one place and continue to work on going to the place that you really want. I always tell a story about one of my graduates who really wanted to be an archivist, did internships, did at least 2 internships during her time in the program, also worked for a while at High Point University in archives, but her first professional job was as a children's librarian in a public library. She liked working with kids. She considered being a teacher. So she worked at that public library, and the job in what's called the North Carolina room in a lot of public libraries in North Carolina, sort of local history job came open, and that's where she serves now. She does local history, archives, digital collections, digitized collections for that public library now. But good news for Sarah, do you want to work in a school library? There's lots of openings right now. So that's a real possibility.
On that note, if I started the SLMC kind of pathway, but realized that I actually didn't want to be in a school library after I did one of those first couple of classes, would I be able to switch to the general track?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And well, let's put it this way. For you, you would actually stay in the general track rather than move over to the SLMC because we're going to give you those background courses first. But even if somebody was admitted to the SLMC track, we have a lot of people who are now presently teachers, and they want to move into the library, and they realize, you know, I really don't want to stay in the education system. Then they switch to the general. And because I didn't say this before, but 5 of the courses are shared across the 2 MLIS programs. So they're called the core courses. Everybody has to take them. So if you kind of stick with the cores, and we will accept whatever other classes that you've taken as well. Because a little bit of teaching, working with kids, those are all things almost every librarian will have to know. Except I managed to run my entire career without working with kids, which was the way I wanted it. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming today for this information session, and I really look forward to seeing those applications, and really appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr. Bird.
you.